We have built a bunch of successful and unsuccessful MVPs in the past 3 years. So we have a tech stack of our own that we prefer using for MVPs to make sure that we are moving fast, we are not wasting too much time, and the client is getting some product out in the market as soon as possible. So this is the tech stack that we prefer using to build MVPs in 1.5 to 3 months ideally. Most of the time, an MVP should not take more than 2 or 3 months. Okay, in some cases, an MVP can be delivered in less than 1 month, but it's very rare, and it's only true for the cases when the scope is very small. But ideally, as per our experience, an MVP should not take more than 2 or 3 months. And this is a tech stack that we prefer using to make sure we deliver fast and we deliver quality work. First one is authentication. Whatever MVP you are building, whatever product you are building, most of the time you need to have authentication in there. And people don't realize that, but authentication can take way too much time. It can take sometimes multiple weeks to just get authentication right if you are implementing custom authentication. So my advice to everyone is just use existing out of the box solutions. We love using Firebase, we love using AWS Amplify, we have used Kind, and we have used Auth0 many times. All of these existing tools are battle tested, they are very robust, and they are way secure than whatever you can build in 1 month. So just go ahead and use one of these services or any existing toolkit for authentication. Next one is Frontend. What the actual front user application is going to look like, if it's a mobile application, if it's a web application, or if it's a Chrome extension. I'm going to cover all three of these and very quickly. So let's say if you are building a web-based application, just go with Next.js. You can export a static website from it, and you can build a dynamic one from it, and it's going to be production ready. So just go for Next.js. If you are building a mobile application, go for React Native, so you can just build a cross-platform application with the same code base. And while you are at it, try to use Ignite CLI. This is a better tested, robust framework. I won't say framework, it's a boilerplate for React Native projects, and it has all the good practices baked in. It might take you a little time to just onboard to the code base, but then you will be forced to use the right practices. So just use Ignite. And if you're building a Chrome extension, what we do is we just use Chrome manifest version 3, version 2, whatever is available, and then we build a React application and then add that in the wrapper of a Chrome extension pop-up if needed. So that helps a lot. That works every time. So we mostly play around in the JS area. So Next.js for front end, React Native Ignite for mobile, and then React Chrome extension, Chrome manifest v3 for Chrome extensions. This works for us. Now if we come to the backend, then you can simply use Express if you want to, but I think if you are already comfortable with TypeScript, and if you want to build something that you can scale later on and that do not get too much messy later on, then just go with Nest.js. And if your application does not have a huge backend, if you do not need a lot of custom functionalities, then you don't even need to have a dedicated Nest.js or Express application. You can simply just use Next.js actions. So, I mean, don't confuse these. There is Next.js and then there is Nest.js. Next.js is for the front end, Nest.js is for the backend. Both of them are awesome. So if the application do not have a lot of backend requirements, do not have a lot of backend custom API requirements, then just go ahead and use the Next.js actions. Otherwise, just build a Next.js application. That will work perfectly fine. Now the third one is opinionated, and it's basically the choice for database. Now I prefer using Postgres for basically everything. Why? Because almost every time that I have relied on NoSQL solutions, later on I have faced some issues. We have faced some issues that some queries are very hard to implement. NoSQL is easier to start with. You don't have to come up with a schema, but almost every time, whenever you try to implement some custom queries, implement some custom mutations or any custom logic, it gets very hard to implement that using NoSQL. And I mean, everyone has their own experience. If you are comfortable with NoSQL, then just go ahead and use NoSQL. No issues with that. But my opinion and my recommendation for almost every project is just use PostgreSQL if we need to have a proper database in there. If you don't need to have a complete database, if you're not managing users or separate entities, and if you just need to store a couple of values, then just go ahead and use Firebase database. That will solve your use case, and for the sake of MVP, it's not going to cost you way too much. Now, if you're planning to implement payments in your application, if you want to accept payments as monthly subscription or on quota based from your application from the users, then just use Stripe. Stripe has the best documentation out there. I am absolutely in love with Stripe's documentation. It's so easy to integrate, and even if you face some issues, the documentation is pretty comprehensive. So you should be able to solve that problem, whatever you are having, and just get started with it. So use Stripe. It should be able to solve your problems. In some cases, in some countries, there are some issues with taxation while working with Stripe, and you have to do a lot of taxes yourself. So there are some other solutions like Lemon Squeezy as well. But since I have not used that myself, I won't be able to give a good enough opinion. But yeah, there are some other options as well. Now comes the interesting part, the part that everyone wants to have in their products these days, AI, right? So if you are building an MVP, then you really want to have AI in your product, right? So first of all, see if your product really needs an AI or not, whether or not it's solving the problem or not. But once you come to the realization that okay, you really need to have AI in your product, then don't worry, it's not very hard to implement that. Just use OpenAI's APIs. Okay, don't go for self-hosted custom models, don't go for anything else. This is what we have used and it's working perfectly well for us. Google has released some solutions with Firebase, so you can easily integrate AI capabilities using Gemini through Firebase as well. So you can use that. But I'm just speaking from my experience. We have mainly and majorly used OpenAI's APIs, GPT 4.0, GPT 3.5. We have used all of those APIs and they work perfectly fine for us. And if you need to have AI capabilities, just go ahead and use OpenAI. If you want to have image generation capabilities, feel free to use Stable Diffusion's APIs. You can use that via Hugging Face, Inference, or any other existing third-party services. Now you have the front end ready, you have the front interface in form of web, mobile, or Chrome extension, you have the backend, you have the database, you have payment, and you have AI. Now what's left? Now you need to deploy your product somewhere, right? And for that, I used to rely on Elastic Beanstalk and S3 a lot previously, but recently I have started loving Google Cloud Run a lot. I mean, Google Cloud Run is amazing. It's very cheap. It's very easy to deploy, and you can build CI/CD pipelines with it, and you can easily spin up your application instances, and it can scale on demand as well. So just go ahead and use Google Cloud Run. And if you need to deploy a static site, if you need to deploy a static HTML, CSS, JSS template, then just go ahead and deploy them on Google Cloud Storage or S3. I don't prefer using Vercel or Netlify or these services because they get very expensive very soon. And even for production, you have to pay some amount. On the other hand, you can just avoid all of that if you just rely on S3 or Google Cloud Storage. So just try to use that to save as much cost as possible in the early days. So hope this helps. We have been building MVPs, POCs, and full-fledged products for our clients for the past 3 years, and our clients have seen immense growth in their businesses and have seen great success with the products we have developed for them. So if you have an idea that you would like to build, if you need any help, any consultancy, just to validate your idea, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and I will be more than happy to help. My name is Hashir Baig. I'm a software developer turned founder. I have a team of software engineers and designers. And if you like this content, if you'd like to know more about how to build MVPs and any particular questions you have about building MVPs, then don't hesitate to reach out to us on LinkedIn or drop me a comment down below. Like this video and share it with your friends if you want to see more content like this one. Thank you.